when you're doing things in content, when you are somebody, if you are big media, you are inside the NBA, you are First Take, ESPN, the entity just in general, or Fox Sports, the entity just in general. One thing that you do is you try to figure out a game plan. You try to figure out a blueprint for what is to come for that sports station. And again, even for smaller content creators like myself, trying to figure out where we want to stand when we create content, when we state an opinion, and what that opinion might do to 100 people or a million people, billions of people over time, if that's what happens for a content creator. And that's my point. When you create content, some people just create content because it's something to do to make money, to monetize off of, and some people find a really good method in how to do that. You got people that are passionate and they try to create passion projects essentially. They try to be as creative as possible in what they do. If that's their editing style, if that's the way they speak, you kind of get where I'm going here. Because you see in the title. LeBron is right, though. LeBron is right in a lot of ways in what he had to say about the way that media speaks about the NBA. Our NBA circles, the from the top two guys like myself that are, trying to figure out how to create an opinion that matters, not really matters, because I don't think even if your opinion, like Shaq's opinion matters, but it doesn't matter to the other half of the masses. Does that make sense? The thing about trying to create media is that you know that there is going to be a group that understands, they agree, they want to elaborate. I like people that elaborate and maybe they got their own opinions on things. Like, man, go be your own content creator. Why not create that same content? You just created a whole script that could be made into something nice. That's all I'm saying. Some people really do understand a lot of the ins and outs of what they watch. If it's the NBA, if it's something going on in the media, if it's politics, I mean, everybody thinks they know everything, but what I'm trying to say is people that actually can break those things down in a educated way to help understand or to help elaborate on a point that was made. Because again, in content creation, yes, I can sit here and act like I am like a wizard with looking at statistics and watching every single game, and that's impossible. There are groups, and there's 30 teams first off, and there are 30 fan bases, and those 30 fan bases can always come and help content creators, even the media to a certain extent, even though the media doesn't really listen as much as content creators listen, to elaborate on a take because clearly those people are watching night in and night out. Like, for example, if I made a video about the Washington Wizards, which clearly I'm not sitting here watching throughout the season, somebody that is a Washington Wizards fan could probably give me more of an elaborative take on that. Now, I'm going kind of on a side tangent, but my point is the NBA community or just sports in general and the attachment of those communities are very important to what makes those sports those sports. Now, when you get these entities like, again, the inside the NBA, which we all have had a moment of loving the inside the NBA. We have had a moment of despising the inside the NBA. And my moment of truly despising them was last year in the Western Conference Finals because they had Draymond Green on in the Western Conference Finals, who clearly doesn't like Rudy Gobert and is shit talking my guy. I mean, again, they are who they are. There's a reason why inside the NBA is such a successful program within itself, but that is the problem. Again, I haven't even 4 minutes in got into the point, but the point is the face of the NBA conversation and the face of the NBA problem. We more than ever speak so easily and freely about players and about what players do on and off the court, the dramas, especially in the NBA, because the NBA is a soap opera within itself, if we're being completely honest. And Anthony Edwards during All Star Weekend was asked, "Hey, do you think you're the face of the NBA?" And he's like, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but we're gonna give that to Mr. Victor Wembanyama because it's clear as day that he is going to take that reign. He is an international player. He has a long reach, literally, and for the player he is, the reach that he has is very large. He comes from France. That's already a place that isn't America. You know, our faces of the league in the NBA have more times than not been in American players, and again, we are going through a space where that isn't looking like it might happen. You know, of course, there's the Jason Tatum conversations, which I think a large group of the NBA audience still disrespects Jason Tatum no matter what he does, because when those moments matter to people that do disrespect Jason Tatum, they say a lot of it has to do with the fact that he doesn't perform at the highest level when he needs to perform at the highest level. I'm not here to argue that right now. That's just the take that is given. Anthony Edwards, obviously, he has other things that happen outside of the NBA that I'm not going to talk about that, kind of go into that storyline thing. And as the face of the NBA, you are damn near supposed to be pitch perfect in every single thing you do. Otherwise, that can get taken away like that. We've seen what happened to John Morant, somebody that was considered to be in that same conversation as the face of the NBA. When you have the media constantly trashing these players that are going to eventually be put in that position, or you get these xenophobic takes about Jokic or about Giannis or about even Victor Wembanyama, it does take away from, and this is something that is an issue, because if I am somebody that is coming into the NBA and all I'm hearing is negativity towards a player I maybe like, it's going to discourage me to a want to listen to the NBA media, because another thing about NBA media is I feel like for the most part it does start to trickle down. You do have those guys that will come out and they will have their deferring opinions about those things, but a lot of times if there is somebody that is screaming out loud and they have a large enough voice, I feel like that becomes a very common thing, a very common conversation within the NBA, and it does take away from these NBA players who are in the attempt to be in the face of the league. And LeBron is essentially saying, like, you guys take away a lot from these players. A, because of the negativity that you guys bring constantly, but also the comparisons. Those comparisons do affect players. Jason Tatum was being compared to Kobe. Obviously, that's his favorite player, but at the end of the day, that's a big expectation to live up to in today's game where we have the most talent we have had. I don't care what older heads try to tell me. You're not going to try to gatekeep and make it seem like Jordan's era was the most talented era. That wouldn't make sense for the evolution of a game that clearly has had a big evolution. We see what role players look like today versus what they looked like back in the 2000s, 2010s even. And that is something to be looked at and to be proud of as an NBA fan, but yet we still can't do that because there's always got to be a negative take. If I believe, I'm not saying I believe this, but I'm saying if I believe Nikola Jokic is the best player in the league and he is the face of the league as we speak, there are going to be every single take about why other players should be there, but there has to be this thing to take away from Nikola Jokic and the player he is, the talent he is. Maybe it's a personality thing, maybe it's the defensive deficiencies that people constantly talk about, but it never can be just a how we always have Jordan and LeBron, those conversations, very close, clearly. We've gotten to a point where it's at the closest it's ever been, no matter if you got Jordan or if you got LeBron, right? I don't think one clears the other. If I got Jordan in front or if I got LeBron in front, that to other people knocks what the other player is. And if you want to trickle that down, every time a player is compared to LeBron James or they're compared to Michael Jordan and they don't live up to that hype, we all take that player as a disappointment. You get where I'm going with this? Every single time a player is in a comparison to other greats, other all-time greats, and they do not perform at the level we expect. I think Jason Tatum's in that position. Anthony Edwards is in that position currently. Victor Wembanyama is still younger, so he still has some time, but he's still technically getting in that position. Luka is definitely in that position. These players that are so good that it kind of goes against them in a lot of ways. If it's what's happening on the court, if it's happening what's happening off the court. Again, we talk a lot about Joel Embiid and the injury history, right? But at the end of the day, when Joel Embiid is healthy, he is a great player. It finally took us to realize Kawhi Leonard really had a degenerative knee, including myself, to realize that Kawhi was really going through it. It wasn't something where he just didn't want to play. You see what I'm saying? Because of the narratives that would constantly flow over and over from the Stephen A. Smiths, the Shaqs, the Rudy Gobert's another one where because Shaq has constantly talked negatively about who Rudy Gobert is. I think Shaq is one. Charles Barkley, of course. Stephen A. Smith is another one. Kendrick Perkins is in that at times. But and I can name others, but a negative spin of a narrative really makes the perspective of a player change, right? Zion Williamson's another player that, I mean, he does it to himself too, but again, it's hard for us to look at a player, and even if we have a player higher than another player, the player we have lower, we always have to talk negatively on instead of appreciating that we have these all-time greats that looking at a player from the 90s and how they were able to perform or outperform so many players in the 90s as the game was still growing and Michael Jordan is something to be fucking said at the end of the day, even if you think LeBron James is better. I do not understand how we knock Michael Jordan, anything that Michael Jordan did, to give LeBron the praise. They both deserve praise at the end of the day. And I know this just became about Jordan or Jordan and Bron, but that's not the point. My point is the media just gotta just take a second, calm the fuck down with the negative conversations that we have about great players, these young players that are gonna eventually be the faces of the league or players that we look at as greats. And again, those players are going to be compared to the past. It just happens in NBA communities. How do we change these conversations to appreciate all the players that we look at in these conversations in the first place? You get where I'm going, or you get what I'm saying? Anyways, y'all, I'm gonna get up out of here. Y'all stay blessed. Have a good day.